America, 1971. A time of rebellion, war protests, distrust in authority, and uncertainty in the air. But on November 24th, the day before Thanksgiving, something happened that would become the greatest unsolved mystery in FBI history. A man boarded a plane, hijacked it, took $200,000, jumped into the darkness, and vanished forever. No body was ever found, no ID was ever confirmed, and more than 50 years later, the question remains, did he die that night, or did he get away with the perfect crime? Because what investigators discovered later makes this story even more disturbing. At exactly 2 p.m., a quiet man walked into Portland International Airport. He wore a black suit, white shirt, thin black tie, polished shoes. He looked ordinary, average height, average build, around his mid-40s. Nothing about him stood out, and that was his greatest weapon. He walked to the counter and bought a one-way ticket to Seattle. The name he gave was Dan Cooper. He paid in cash. In 1971, airport security was almost non-existent. No ID checks, no baggage scans, no metal detectors. Anyone could walk onto a plane, and he knew that. At 2:50 p.m., he boarded Northwest Orient Flight 305. He took seat 18C, window seat. From that moment on, history was already changing. Shortly after takeoff, he called over a flight attendant. Her name was Florence Schaffner. He handed her a folded note. She assumed it was a phone number. This happened often. She smiled politely and placed it in her pocket. But then he leaned closer and said something she would never forget. "Miss, you better read that note. I have a bomb." Her heart began pounding. She opened it. The message was calm, precise, controlled. "I have a bomb in my briefcase. I want $200,000 in cash, 4 parachutes, and a fuel truck ready in Seattle." No panic, no emotion, just instructions. He opened his briefcase slightly. Inside were red cylinders, wires, and a battery. It looked real. And in that moment, she knew this was not a joke. She informed the cockpit immediately. The pilots contacted air traffic control. Within minutes, the FBI was involved. But here's what made this different. He wasn't screaming. He wasn't threatening passengers. He wasn't acting like a desperate criminal. He was calm, polite, even courteous. He ordered another bourbon, paid his tab, and waited, as if he was completely in control. And maybe he was. The plane circled Seattle for nearly 2 hours while authorities gathered the money and parachutes. On the ground, the FBI faced a terrifying decision. They could refuse, but that risked dozens of innocent lives. Or they could comply and let him escape. They chose to comply. At 5:39 p.m., the plane landed in Seattle. The runway was dark, silent. No police stormed the plane, no sudden movements. A fuel truck approached slowly, along with a bag containing $200,000 in cash. Each bill carefully recorded, each serial number documented. This would be their only chance to track him later. The parachutes were delivered, exactly as he requested. Then something unexpected happened. He released every passenger. Every single one walked off safely. No one was harmed. No one was injured. This wasn't about violence. This was about escape. But escape from what? Or escape to where? Only the flight crew remained. He gave new instructions. Fly to Mexico City. Fly below 10,000 feet. Keep the speed low. And most importantly, leave the rear stairs accessible. This detail confused investigators because almost no one knew the rear stairs could be opened mid-flight. But he knew. which meant one thing: this was planned, carefully, precisely. At 7:40 p.m., the plane took off again. Night had fallen. A cold storm covered the sky. Heavy rain, freezing temperatures, dangerous winds, conditions no sane person would jump into. But he wasn't afraid. Around 8 p.m., he told the flight attendant to go into the cockpit, close the door, and do not come out. She obeyed. Alone in the cabin, he prepared. He tied the money around his body, put on the parachute, and waited. Minutes later, the crew noticed something strange, a sudden upward movement. The plane's balance shifted. Then came a warning light. The rear stairs had been deployed. Cold air rushed inside, violent wind filled the cabin, and somewhere in that darkness, at 10,000 feet, over the forests of Washington, he jumped. Into freezing rain, into total darkness, into nothing. When the plane landed, the FBI rushed aboard, but he was gone. Only his black tie remained. Clip-on, ordinary, except it wasn't, because that tie would later reveal clues no one expected. The FBI launched the largest manhunt in its history. Hundreds of agents searched forests, helicopters scanned miles of wilderness, divers searched rivers. Nothing. No parachute, no body, no clothing, nothing. It was as if he never existed. Weeks turned into months, months turned into years. The FBI investigated over 1,000 suspects, criminals, paratroopers, military veterans. None matched perfectly. None could be proven. Then, 9 years later, something shocking happened. In 1980, an 8-year-old boy named Brian Ingram was digging in the sand near the Columbia River. What he found stunned everyone. Bundles of cash, buried, rotting, but still identifiable. The serial numbers matched the hijacking money. This meant one thing: at least some of the money never made it to safety. But how did it get there? Did he land in the river? Did he die during the jump? Or did something else happen? Because investigators found something even stranger. The money was buried intentionally, not scattered, not lost, placed. This raised a terrifying possibility. What if he survived? What if he buried the money himself and walked away? Years later, new forensic analysis of his tie revealed microscopic particles, titanium, rare metals, materials used in aerospace manufacturing. This suggested he may have worked in aviation, or engineering, or even military technology. This wasn't random. This was expertise. He knew the plane. He knew the parachutes. He knew the timing. He knew exactly what he was doing, which raises the most chilling question of all. What if he planned everything perfectly and succeeded? The FBI officially closed the case in 2016. After 45 years, they had no answers, no identity, no body, no conclusion. The man known as D.B. Cooper remains the only skyjacker in American history who was never caught. Some believe he died the moment he jumped. Others believe he survived, changed his name, and lived a normal life. Maybe he had a family. Maybe he watched the news. Maybe he smiled, knowing he got away. Because somewhere out there, the truth still exists, hidden, waiting, and maybe still watching.